14 movies, one Nicolas Cage, one Austin, and one baby. What do you mean by one baby? You'll see. What's up, flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking all of the original new releases that I saw in November. I saw 14 of them, and we're going to count them down. We're going to rank them, put them on tier lists. But guess what? I'm on daddy duty today because Riley, she was feeling a little under the weather. So guess what? She gets to help me out with this video. Isn't that right, sweetheart? Hello, honey. She's feeling fine, obviously. Just a slight fever. Don't want to send her to daycare with a slight fever, even though she probably got it from a kid who was sent to daycare with a slight fever. We got lots to talk about, including a couple of films that I haven't discussed on this channel. One that I'm still working on a review for, so I won't say too much. But we're going to start with Disney's Wish. I didn't know what to think about this going in, man. I'll be honest. I saw the trailer and I said, it's, you know, at least it's trying to be different with its animation. And it didn't really do anything for me beyond that. Unfortunately, I feel the same way about the film. You know, this is one of those Disney movies that I thought had potential based around the casting, Ariana DeBose and, of course, Chris Pine, who are both great in the movie. And I also believe there is potential with this premise. This guy granting everybody's wishes. Is he withholding things? Is he secretly corrupt? Is there an arc to this villain? There was at the beginning, and then they kind of just forget about that, and it turns into a big, you know, wish-wash, cliche series of events that we've seen in 1,000 Disney films, and that's okay if you give our characters something to do that's a little more interesting than what they got to do in this movie. Unfortunately, I was disappointed in Wish. I wish it was better, so we're putting Wish on the mad tier. That was dumb. Although I did like the soundtrack, which Disney sent me, so thanks for this. I enjoyed this part, just not the rest of it. Trolls. What's the subtitle?
Come on, baby, what's the name?
Trolls Band Together. Got it. This is a big in-sync thing. You know, it's just funny to me because kids, they don't know who NSYNC is, but I get why they did it, right? They're going to bring some good music to this movie, obviously, and then the adults who are taking their kids, most likely, they know who NSYNC is. I love me some NSYNC. I grew up with NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, that type of thing. I was 7, and I still love it. And look, I don't have kids old enough to take to the movie Trolls. I have her, but she's not going to a movie for a while. We got a while, don't we, sweetheart? We can watch movies at home. And I'm sure some kids are going to enjoy this. It's colorful. It's full of music that they're going to recognize. I see that as lazy. They're going to see that as cool. But that's the whole shtick with Trolls. I can't get mad at that. But when you substitute a good story, compelling characters, anything of note to talk about with the villainous side of things. I mean, this villainous story here, actually what they're doing is kind of evil, like really evil for a kid's movie, but they make it lighthearted, right? But the story and the characters and the growth, there is none of that in this film. It's full of pop songs and recognizable songs and an NSYNC reunion that people are going to enjoy. I liked that part, but the rest of the film did absolutely nothing for me. So people are going to be on the other side. That's fine. I'm putting Trolls Band Together on the bad tier. It's just a bad movie. Dicks. I'm sorry, honey. The musical.
What's your profanity?
It's the name of the movie. I apologize. This is one of those things that I didn't know what to think of, but it's A24. Like, I love A24. I think most of the things that the studio does, they usually turn out to be great. And a lot of people like this film. A lot of people enjoyed it. Not my cup of tea. It starts out on a silly note, and I see what it's trying to do. Clearly, we're getting the musical numbers. There's supposed to be comedy coming from that. These two guys, they're living their best lives, and at the same time, their worst lives, and they meet up. They find out that they're brothers. They've been separated. Life's going good, or is it at that point? And it's an interesting story, but I just found the attempt at comedy and humor through music here to be a huge misfire. And the story itself, while in the beginning I'm like, all right, let's see what happens, and it just feels like nothing of relevance happens. The growth in these characters, I guess it's technically there, sort of, but I don't know if I believed it, to be honest with you. I think the two lead performances are good, and I think some of the supporting characters in here are actually pretty funny, but most of the humor, when you have a comedy like this, and that's what it is, for the most part, it's a comedy, it's a musical, all of those things, but when it misses on the humor, normally That's not good. And I found that Dix the Musical really missed on its humor. And this is one of the first A24 movies that I unfortunately have to say is bad. I'm going to put Dix the Musical on the bad tier. Okay, not off to the best start. Taika Waititi, Michael Fassbender, can you save us? Please? Taika, 2 years ago, this was one of my most anticipated movies of that year, and then of the year after that, and of this year. And I thought Taika Waititi at the time was one of the best filmmakers in the business because he was on a run that was so hot and just full of fantastic movies, it was hard to put out those flames. And unfortunately, Thor: Love and Thunder did that. But Next Goal Wins, I thought, would be the film that brought him back to life. I mean, this is his element. This is his style of movie. Feel good, humor. It's not really revolving around kids. I think that's what he does a really nice job of. But Next Goal Wins is a lighthearted, true story that I thought was full of some interesting characters. And unfortunately, man, oh man, did they not rush and montage their way through this feel-good sports story that could have been a kick-ass...
What's your profanity?
I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean to say that. Are you okay? Am I boring you? It's so rushed. And Fassbender, given a great performance here, I thought he really committed to the role. I love the idea of him going in and changing the culture of this team. Not the culture, but the winning culture. There is none. They're a bunch of losers, and he is hired to change that. Can he change that? A lot of interesting questions at the beginning, but it feels like we go from point A to point E in 5 seconds, and after a couple of montages, are you okay? Where did the time go? And I get it, we want a shorter runtime sometimes, but you also have to flesh out the characters a little bit, and I thought the humor was pretty good. Better than it was in Love and Thunder. Still more hit and miss than we're used to with Taika Waititi. Some really nice moments and jokes. Some of them, though, they just kind of push it too far, and it doesn't have that laugh out loud, belly laugh type of thing that we've seen from Taika before. So I didn't think it was a bad movie. A lot of people think it's a bad film. I don't think that, but it just feels like a big missed opportunity. And unfortunately, I have to go Next Goal Wins on the meh tier. All right, this month starting out on a rough note. Thankfully, we have Thanksgiving in November. No, the movie. Well, the holiday too, but we have both. This is not what you want your Thanksgiving dinner to be like. Full of violence, gore, and scary people killing each other.
Jesus Christ.
It's really just one killer. I thought the lead up to that reveal was actually really good. I think the middle portion of this movie is a big missed opportunity because this had the best opportunity of any film I've seen this year to be the next horror classic. With this slasher figure, with the mask, it could have inevitably become iconic. It had that opportunity, but the second act, it doesn't squander that. It's just full of characters doing stuff that I didn't care as much about. Now, there's an underlying story here. It all starts out with one of the best Black Friday sequences and one of the most realistic you'll ever see. True story. If you weren't here for that, if you weren't of age back in the day when Black Friday was a thing, you don't remember it? Oh, it was a thing. Watch this film. It's basically a documentary. That, combined with the kills, combined with the slasher reveal, and what we get with the ending, I thought this was a really fun movie. I'm going Thanksgiving on the good tier. All right, we're off to a good start here. Well, it's a bad start, but we're going to keep it going with the positives, talking Songbirds and Snakes, talking a Hunger Games movie that I just, right, Riley? Not looking forward to it. But Snow is a really interesting character. Lucy Gray is not as interesting as Snow, but their relationship, their chemistry on screen, and the first 2 acts of this film are an absolute blast. I mean, I genuinely had a better time with this than I have with a YA movie since Catching Fire, maybe? Unfortunately, you get to the end in the 3rd act, it's just really long, and it goes on way too long to the point where I'm like, why didn't they separate this and make it 2 movies? And then I thought back to Mockingjay, and I said, oh, that's probably why they didn't do it. And you can't have a Hunger Games movie without the Hunger Games. I get it. But at the same time, it really did feel like they crammed so much into that 3rd act. But book readers will tell you, and they've told me a couple of times, that's kind of how it feels when reading the book. So I love the fact that this was so just dedicated to book readers and fans, but it also is accessible enough for general audiences to enjoy. That's why I'm going Songbirds and Snakes on the good tier. Then we have Colman Domingo as Rustin, a film that I was a little late on, so I didn't get the chance to review it. But this is the man who orchestrated the march in Washington in 1963 to fight for civil rights and also facing challenges of racism and homophobia. You know, for Domingo to capture this character, well, this real life person in the way that he did, and to play it with such charisma, but also he's commanding every moment that he's on screen. I believe this film is a big missed opportunity as a whole. I didn't love the movie. I felt like it was too standard biopic instead of being something that, well, is what it is. It's a powerful, true story. So why not tell it in a way that allows it to stand out from other biopics? It does feel very familiar in that way. And they also try to do, you know, that romance that he was having. And there's a lot of drama that goes into that side of the story. But I felt like the film really struggled when it came to balancing the two, the relationship and what he's actually trying to do. And then his relationships with those who are a part of this entire civil rights movement, a couple of people that you'll be very excited to see. But at the same time, you know, Rustin just didn't really hit the mark that I was expecting it to hit. I felt the powerful true story, but I didn't really feel it being brought across from the movie itself. All of that being said, Colman Domingo is amazing, but I'm going to go Rustin on the okay tier. I believe his performance is strong enough to bring this movie to something that's worth watching if you're really interested in what actually happened. Next up is a film that I was very excited to see. Sandra Hüller has been getting a lot of talk for Oscars this year, and this film, I mean, it's already kind of stacking a couple of awards here and there. It's already making some noise. I believe it's going to get a Best Picture nomination at this point, and maybe screenplay. It's Anatomy of a Fall. I finally got to see it. A woman is suspected of her husband's murder, and their blind son faces a moral dilemma as the main witness. This is a courtroom drama, unlike one that I have ever seen before. The detail that they showcase in this courtroom, it's really interesting. I thought the dialogue was great. And the moral dilemma that all of our characters are facing. Not only our main character, and she's in the thick of things because a lot of things are starting to stack up against her. Are we going to get our answers? Who actually did this? How did he die? The charts and the diagrams that they're showing in court. Is this how court is really like there? Because that is fascinating. It feels like there's so much detail that our characters went into in the third act of this film. But I feel as if some, and I'm going to put myself in this category just a little bit, will be disappointed in the way that this movie plays out. I felt a slight sense of disappointment only because I was so engaged in the third act. I also felt that the pacing wasn't as flawless as it was in Act 1 and then the finale of the film. So I do have, I believe, more issues than some others do with Anatomy of a Fall, but I still think it's one that is worth your time because it's going to get a lot of love. And it's still a great movie, don't get me wrong, but it's a little lower on that tier than I expected it to be.
Move this man!
Saltburn, we just talked about this. This is one of those that, you know, after it was over, I had to sit with it. And I don't know if I sat with it long enough because I raised my score by 2 percentage points within the next 24 hours after putting my video out that had the wrong scorecard on it. I did enjoy Saltburn. I do believe that buildup is just a little too slow and unengaging for me. And I felt like the film went off on a couple of paths here and there that didn't work as well with the story as what inevitably brings it all together. That was amazing. The way a lot of these events play out in the third act are going to have you just baffled, like, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe Barry Keoghan's giving one of the best performances of the year. I think there should be a little more consideration with him for a Best Actor nomination. I truly believe that. Everybody else is good. Barry Keoghan in this film is great. They do feed you a lot in the third act. I wish they would have fed me less. I feel as if I could have figured some things out on my own. But Saltburn goes on the good tier for me. Come on. There we go. Then we have Nicolas Cage. Dream Scenario. That's a bad... I'm sorry, sweetheart. That's a bad Nicolas Cage impression. You can check out my review, and we can explore this dream journal together. But I do believe this was a good film, one that's worth watching. Maybe not on the big screen. I hate to say that, but this is one you could watch at home. Nicolas Cage is giving a great, committed, very dynamic performance. I loved his character in this. I felt like he had a lot of passion for this source material, and no wonder, man. This is such an original story, one that presents a few too many ideas at play, and I don't love the route that they went down at the end, but it was interesting. The dream sequences are great. It is very flawless when it goes from comedy to horror. There's a lot of good things in here. It feels like A24 for sure. I'm going to go dream scenario on the good tier. Yet another good movie. Then we have The Holdovers. I was so excited to receive this. And this, recognize this? Huh? Going to be wearing this sweatshirt with pride. This is one of the best movies of the year, bar none. No competition, no doubt. I'm going to hold this close to my heart forever. This is the next Christmas classic. This may be one of my favorite Christmas movies. I loved it with everything in me. But I don't want to talk about it too much right now because I have a very passionate review coming out on the channel very soon, just to talk about why this hit me as hard as it did. Why it is, I mean, it hurts me because I love Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, but why I believe Paul Giamatti should win the Oscar for Best Actor, and why there are some emerging performances in this film that should warrant more discussion when it comes to awards. The Holdovers, if it weren't for Oppenheimer, I'd say just should win everything this year. It's not going to, but I gonna hold off, man. This is giving you something to chew on until my review. But The Holdovers, awesome movie. I love it.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect.
David Fincher, The Killer. This was in my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year. I was dying to see this film. I walked out ever so just slightly disappointed in the overall impact of the story. Now, technically, it's phenomenal. Cinematography, amazing. The sequences, the way they're shot, the composition, the aesthetic, all of that is David Fincher. David Fincher in the world of crime. That's where he thrives, in my opinion. Crime, it's an assassin movie. Similar, right? But I love the way this was constructed. Now, I do believe the second act, it didn't struggle to keep my attention, but it struggled to maintain the impact that the opening sequence, and you know the one I'm talking about, had. And I believe the attempt at trying to say what Fincher was trying to say didn't fully deliver. And we fast forward to the main end of the film. While I enjoyed the third act quite a bit, to be honest with you, I did find the ending to just be like, oh man, well, okay. I wanted a little more there, so I didn't expect to feel that way. I still think the movie is very impactful, beautiful to look at, and usually I don't love voiceovers in movies. I loved the voiceover in this movie, and I thought Fassbender crushed this role. And the humor in here, which is very just light, I thought it worked. Oh, and one action sequence. Maybe, I mean, not the best of the year, but one of the best of the year. Let's go David Fincher's The Killer on the great tier. I believe this is, well, it's better than Mank. The Marvels. You know, I was hoping this would surprise me. Nia DaCosta as a director, I really, really wanted her to crush it, as she has for a while. And I don't think this is her fault. I feel as if this is another, studio going to churn out the movie that's going to capitalize on the IP, and it's going to capitalize on 3 different projects. The first Captain Marvel, WandaVision, and Miss Marvel, which is a lot for your standard audience member. That plus the fact that people just kind of feel the way they feel about the MCU right now, and money is tight. I mean, not everyone has enough money to go see every movie, and why would you pick something if you've not seen 1 out of the 3 projects? So I get why it didn't do great at the box office. That being said, the drop-off was crazy, and that just speaks to the quality of the film, in my opinion. This is one that is fun enough. It's sweet and lighthearted. Obviously, Miss Marvel, for me, I raved about her in my review, is the best character. I can't wait to see more of her. She is amazing. And the chemistry with the other 2 was good, but I still don't know a lot about Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. I still have a lot of issues with the way that the story was told, and we just jumped around all over the place. The story just was not that impactful. Their chemistry was great, but that gets lost within the confines of a very forgettable final product. So The Marvels, unfortunately, is going right with Next Goal Wins and Wish on the meh tier. There he is. Ridley Scott, I'll ask you, why didn't I love Napoleon? Hey, why don't you go yourself, buddy? Okay, sounds good. Listen, this is one of those films that I was really looking forward to. It was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and then my most anticipated film of the fall. It looked phenomenal. Joaquin Phoenix, Oscar winner. It's kind of weird that they're not doing the accent, but then yes, Riley, thank you. But then as the movie continued on, I got it. I got what he was going for. Not something that's fully, true to history, obviously, but he's showcasing these events happening in his own way. And you got to be on board for that. You're going to hate the film. If you're a history buff and you watch this thinking it's a history tale, pure history, you may not like this. That's not what Ridley Scott was going for, in my opinion. All of that being said, I still don't know if he nailed what he was going for because the romance aspect just did not really work for me. Kirby's performance is top tier. The movie's not going to get any Oscar nominations, but I think at least her name should be in the conversation. It should be a topic of discussion. It's not going to be because Napoleon is simply too long. Now, it's not too long.
That's what she said.
But it's too long. Austin, what do you mean? It feels longer than Oppenheimer. It feels just as long as Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's not nearly as long as those two films. I think the pacing is off here. I also believe the second act just kind of gets lost in itself as to what it's going for. When they showcase these huge battles, it's amazing. Some of the best cinematography of the year. The battles are as epic as you've ever seen, Gladiator-esque, in my opinion. And Napoleon's story of the rise and fall of power, that was fascinating. But we go off track more than a few times. And the film either needed to be 4 hours or 2 hours. It was neither. It just didn't really work as to what it was going for. I'm still going to put it on the okay tier, though, because of that theatrical experience. I didn't have the worst time with the film, and I really warmed up on Joaquin Phoenix's performance. I just wish it was a lot better than it actually was. Come on. There you go. Before I rank these movies, if you enjoy this monthly series and you'd like to see more of this from me, dropping that thumbs up is the best way to let me know. At the bottom, we're going trolls below dicks. Never thought I would say those two things in the same sentence. Next up, I think I enjoyed The Marvels just a bit more than Wish. And right on top there is Next Goal Wins. Hello? There we go. Napoleon as a whole was a better experience than Rustin, even though Coleman Domingo, again, is spectacular. On the good tier, this one's going to be tough. I'm going to go Saltburn at the bottom, and Thanksgiving, I never thought I would say this in a million years, right above Saltburn. And that looks pretty good there. Dream Scenario at the top. Songbirds and Snakes. Really enjoyed that film. On the great tier, Anatomy of a Fall is going to go below The Killer, followed by The Holdovers. And this is my tease for that. You should be seeing my review for The Holdovers within the next few days. I'm going to have some more reviews before that. Godzilla -1, and then maybe May, December. But I can't wait to talk about not only my favorite movie of the month, one of the best movies of the year. Please go see it. If you get a chance, it's on demand, I believe, now. Please, please, please watch this film. I implore you. It's a great, heartwarming, heartfelt, phenomenal experience. Riley, how you doing? Feeling okay? She's tired. That means it's nap time. For both of us, probably. And my computer's lagging. It's nap time for everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon.